Welcome back to Tea with Addie. So first things first, here's my little T2 calendar. Morning sunshine, okay. First, I wanted to tell you some 3 stories today that I had at work. Walked into my shop. She was a little bit older than my mum, and for her clothes, and when she was giving like her Amex card, she was telling me, oh my god, like, don't look at my hands, they're so old. And I said to the lady, what are you talking about? Like, I think your hands are beautiful. And she's like, oh no, they're not, like trying to put herself down. And I said, no, they are beautiful, because beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. And because right now, some people can say like, oh, you're in your prime of your life, but to me it's just like, what prime? Because for a woman, it doesn't really matter. Are you just saying like her prime is just in her 20s only? Because when I look at older women, I don't think like, oh, they're old, they're haggard, they're like, you know, throwaway. I think of women as like, oh my god, like, I can't wait to be at that age where I'm a lot more confident, a lot more assertive, and control my life. Obviously not all women, but most women should have their lives together. Should. I said, like, your hands are beautiful. It's in the eyes of the beholder, because like, look at your hands as like, oh, they're old, they're ugly, they're like sun weathered. To me, I see those hands as like, those hands help, like, you know, build a house, help nurture her children, help, you know, be able to pay for the present that she's going to buy for her family and for her children. So when I said that to her, I'm like, that is true beauty. Beauty is not like aesthetically pleasing, but true beauty is that has a story to it. Because if your hands looking like a 20-year-old at like 40-year-old, I would think like, oh my god, like, this woman has no struggles in her life. She had no story, she had no like anything to really give to me that makes it, you know, more grounded, more like amazing, more like beauty. So a week later, after I had that conversation with that lady, I was talking to my mum, who was going out with her partner at the time, and she was wearing a dress, so she was showing off her legs. And she was saying, oh my god, my legs look so old, like, oh my god. And I said to her, I'm like, Mum, why are you comparing yourself to a 20-year-old? Like, I would have a different conversation if I was actually speaking to my sister, because when you're young, all you have to show is basically you're young, you're supposed to have fun and feeling hot like at the prime of your life. But if you're 40 years old or plus, like around 50s, like middle of your life, and you're comparing your legs to a 20-year-old when you're going out with a man who's the exact same age as you, I'm like, are you sure you want to be dating someone who likes 20-year-old legs, who is like the same age as you? Because it's a bit weird, because I don't know, if I'm like 40 and stuff, I would not have anything comparisons to 20-year-olds. I'm like, no. First of all, you're a child. So that's why I was like, Mum, don't compare yourself to like 20-year-olds. It's a bit weird if you do date someone who only likes 20-year-old legs. Always go into the mindset of like, I'm perfect, but how can I be even more perfect? But also understand there's perfection in the imperfections. That's why I said to her, like, I said to my mum, I'm like, Mum, your legs helped, you know, play with me. They helped, you know, take me to and from school. Those legs got you to work and back home safe. How could I myself look at those legs and not see anything beautiful? That is how I see life. I'm like, why should like old women compare themselves to 20-year-old women? It's just like, it doesn't make sense. I am happy with like women who are older and stuff, who are like, to not necessarily look like their 20s, but have everything like put together, because I do believe in, if you feel confident, like if you look confident and you feel confident, more the power to you. Because I realize when I say, oh, you don't need filler, you don't need XYZ, it's just like, no, like if it helps them just only a little bit, if it helps them get more confident, the more power towards them. Obviously don't overdo it, but like enough to be like, you're more confident in the world, then good on you. Because I will never look at an older woman, no matter what age group, as like, oh my god, they're old, they're ugly, comparing themselves to a 20-year-old. Because that is very stupid. It's like, women, we put so much pressure on ourselves, and for what? And for who? Like, I find, like, if you are constantly have the glasses on for what a man would like, you're missing out the rest of the world. Because hell, like why should you care, especially if you're 40, caring about what a 20-year-old man would like? And if you're looking at a 20-year-old and then comparing a 40-year-old to a 20-year-old and be like, oh my god, you let yourself go, is that really the man you want to be with? Because it's just like, to me, that sounds like a man, like he's still stuck in the past and he's not thinking of the future. And I'm just like, girl, do you really want that? It's important that us younger generation remind the older generation that they are beautiful. Knowledge, they have experience, and they have confidence. Same goes for like the older generation. Gotta remind the younger generation that beauty is not everything. It's about the inside. Like outer appearance, it fades, it changes. Look at them. They used to be so like radiant themselves in their 20s. I'm not saying that they're not radiant now in their like, you know, later on in their lives, but like they have so much more beauty within themselves. And if you're only seeing things at the shallow level of just like out of appearance and you're missing what's inside, it really is such a tragedy, because it's just like the character of a person makes them so much more attractive. The world does judge you on your outer appearance, but I judge people on like the inner appearance. Because if you're, you know, a 5 but you have a great personality, that instantly makes you a 10 in my eyes. But if you're like a 10 but like a shit personality, then you're just a 2. It's just maybe pretty to look at, but prettiness does fade. And then the more ugly you are as a person, the less attractive you are. It's just like, ew, no, why would I want that vibration in my life when I can have someone else who is just like so radiant, have a great mindset, a great attitude towards life? To me, I see that as like, oh my god, like this is a person with substance. This is a person who has character. This is a person that I can see myself growing, learning, and just feeling more fulfilled in life, basically. Welcome back to story 2. So this lady walked into my store. She was about to return something for her son's girlfriend, and she was a bit like cranky. And what seems to be the problem when I was like returning the gifts, like different size, it doesn't really matter. And she's like, this is for my son's girlfriend. He's spending so much money on her. And I said, okay, like, well, how old is your son? And she's like, oh, he's in year 12. And I was like, okay, what about the girl? Like, what is she like? And she's like, oh, she's lovely. She works really hard. She studies. She treats my son like a good girlfriend. I was like, okay, what is her parents like? And she's like, oh, the parents are lovely people. They worked hard for everything. We get along perfectly. And then I was like, okay, like, how does your husband treat you? And she's like, oh, my husband, he always spoils me. I'm very lucky. And I said, okay, what seems to be the problem? And she's like, what do you mean? He's spending a lot of money on his girlfriend. He's such a young boy. Like, why is he spending so much money? And I said to her, well, men only spend that said money if it's their dream girl. And she's like, oh. And I was like, yeah, like, I think the real problem here is that you're kind of jealous of the girlfriend because your son is trying to emulate what his parents have, aka how your husband treats you. And when I brought that to her attention, her whole demeanor changed. She was like, oh. So I said to her, don't feel like you're losing your son. Walk out of this shop knowing that you raised a man. He's just simply trying to be like your parents. And she's like, oh, okay. I still want some love. And I said, you know what, that's probably a conversation you should bring up with like your son and not with his girlfriend. So we came to the conclusion that like, hey, look, you raised a man, congratulations. If you're worried about his finances, just give him finance books. I said to her, do you have any daughters? She said, no, only sons. And I said, well, if you have a daughter, wouldn't you want her to be spoiled by her boyfriend? And she's like, oh, oh my god, like I didn't think of it that way. And I was like, well, there you go. Like, leave this shop knowing that you raised a man and not a boy. Because I think what you really are frustrated of is that your son doesn't pay you enough attention for after years of, like, you know, treating him like what you should, like your son. Because I knew for a fact, if I raised a son, and if he's not treating his girlfriend better than me, I would have said I failed. Because I knew for a fact, if I have a daughter, I want my daughter to be spoiled. Yeah, so that's a perspective. So here's like another little story. So this was the time where there was this man who came into the shop. He just finished his work, so he was a tradie, and he walked in the shop and he's like, hi, I want to buy these items. And I was like, oh yeah, sure thing. Are these a gift? And he's like, oh yeah, they're a gift. And I said, okay, is this a birthday present or something? You know, just as I was wrapping. And he's like, no, it's just what I do every month. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, I love her. She's my girlfriend. I want to spoil her. And I was like, okay. How long have you guys been dating? Because that's one of the best things about working where I am. A lot of boyfriends come into the shop and they always like buy things for their misses, their mothers, and they were just, oh yeah, this is XYZ. And I was like, oh, that's really exciting. So I said to her, at first I was like, oh, she must be like a very like special woman. How long have you been dating for? And he's like, oh, only for a few months. And I was like, okay, this is probably like the honeymoon period. And he said, I knew her a lot longer. And I said, oh, like, what do you mean? Because I was a little bit like, because he is a tradie. So I was like, oh, like, hopefully not in high school. But no, they met through family friends. And the reason why they didn't get together earlier is because they both had partners at the time. And they got along quite well. And it was until they finished, they started to get together. And now he treats her like a princess. And I said to him, you're such a man. Does not need a reason, but he just wants to spoil his girlfriend. He's like, yep. And it's like, I also want those slippers as well. And I was like, you want slippers to go with like a set as well? And I was like, okay, sure thing. Whatever you want. I have noticed that if you compliment men, they tend to feel like very secure in themselves. They're like, oh yeah, I do that. And they will buy the extra one, or they will hold the bag for the girlfriend, or they will like buy extra things because, you know, they got the validation that like, hey, look, I am a man. That can also be like a marketing technique, I don't know, but I was just generally saying good on you, because in my shop, not a lot of men come into it. So when a man does come into it, you never really see singles, you only see boyfriends, sons, or gay people. And so when you see that, you're like, good on you, and they'll always spend a little extra, be like, oh yes, I am that guy. I was like, oh, okay. It's just lovely to see that men don't have to become big businesses or anything, but like just work a tradie job, even though tradies do get the ladies. But it's good to see like he's also like remembering his girlfriend, like unprovoked and whatsoever. So when I was wrapping it up after he paid for it, his girlfriend called and he's like, hello. And I don't know what she said, but he's like, oh, funny you should say that. And he was like looking down at the pajamas, and you can hear in the background going, oh my god, how much more pajamas? So clearly this was not the first time, but he was still grinning like, yeah, he's like, I don't care, I'm gonna spoil my girlfriend. And I'm like, that right there is a man. So I made sure like everything was wrapped up, everything was glorious, and I said, good on you. The world needs more of you in it. And he's like, thank you. I'm gonna go home and see my girlfriend because I love her. And it's like, nothing is more better than seeing a guy to say like, oh, I love my girlfriend, I like her, I only have eyes for her, and it goes strictly towards her. And it's like, that is so lovely, you know, a guy like that in your life that are constantly like, yep, my girlfriend, because it's just like, that right there is when you know he's not a closeted gay person. Because he loves women so much so that he's willing to tell the world, hey, I have a girlfriend and I'm happy to have her, and I don't know how I score her, but she's my girlfriend. And I was like, oh, men, oh, can't live with them, can't live without them.